Oliver, the young protagonist of No Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, embodies a heartwarming charm of a classic Studio Ghibli hero, whimsical yet resilient, like Spirited Away's Chihiro or My Neighbor Totoro's Satsuki, while carrying the strategic depth of a level 5 RPG protagonist, akin to Dark Chronicles Max or Professor Layton's earnest puzzle-solving spirit. Welcome to Heronalysis. With his wide-eyed wonder, emotional vulnerability, and gradual transformation into a true hero, Oliver bridges Ghibli's signature themes of growth through adversity and Level 5's love of intricate, player-driven storytelling. His journey, a blend of Studio Ghibli's painterly magic and Level 5's gameplay ingenuity, makes him a perfect fusion of both worlds' finest traditions. Oliver's overwhelming grief and naivete create emotional hurdles that resonate with the player. Early in the game, his despair after Allie's death is palpable, and his emotional reluctance to believe in Ninokuni's magic mirrors the player's own skepticism. This makes his eventual acceptance of his role as the pure-hearted one feel like a shared triumph. However, his trusting nature also leads to painful moments, such as when the player realizes alongside Oliver that Shadar has manipulated entire kingdoms into despair. When he finally reaches Hamlin, seeing brainwashed children callously dismiss their own parents is unsettling, and Oliver's horrified reaction amplifies the emotional weight. The player isn't simply fighting monsters, they're battling the cruelty of a world that preys on innocence, and Oliver's vulnerability makes these stakes personal. While his journey begins with profound loss, the death of his mother Allie leaves him heartbroken and directionless. His grief is a significant weakness as it initially renders him powerless against despair. However, his compassion for both his mother and the suffering people of Ninokuni drives him forward. When Mr. Drippy reveals that Allie's soul might be saved, Oliver's determination ignites. His willingness to help others, even in his own sorrow, becomes his strength. For example, in Ding Dong Dell, he aids the grieving King Tom by restoring the heart of his son, Marcassin. This act not only showcases Oliver's empathy, but also reinforces his own healing process by mending others' hearts. He mends his own. In battle, Oliver's physical frailty and dependence on magic force the player to think carefully about every move. Early game encounters like the Guardian of the Woods can be brutal if the player hasn't mastered dodging or MP conservation. Oliver's low HP pool means that even minor enemies can quickly overwhelm him if left unchecked, turning random encounters into genuine threats. His slow spellcasting also introduces risk charging as a powerful spell like Flame Burst leaves him open to interruption, punishing careless timing. Boss fights exploit these weaknesses mercilessly. Against Shadar's second form, his rapid area of effect attacks can easily stunlock Oliver if the player hasn't leveled familiars or stocked up on healing items. These moments force players to grind, optimize their team, or rethink strategies, highlighting Oliver's growth through gameplay difficulty. In combat, Oliver's physical frailty and inexperience could have made him an easy target, but his courage and rapid magical aptitude turned the tide. Early fights, like his first encounter with the Guardian of the Woods, force him to rely on quick thinking rather than brute strength. His ability to learn spells like Sparky, lightning magic, allows him to exploit enemy weaknesses, compensating for his lack of physical power. Later, when facing Shadar's forces, Oliver's versatile spellcasting becomes crucial. He switches between healing allies with heal and unleashing devastating magic attacks like Flame Burst, adapting dynamically to each battle. His leadership in battle also grows. By the time he confronts the White Witch, he coordinates his familiars and party members seamlessly, turning his initial tactical uncertainty into a strength. However, his initial inexperience in leadership and over-reliance on magic created tactical dilemmas early on. In fights where enemies resist spells like Metal Snail, the player must scramble to rely on familiars or physical attacks, something Oliver isn't naturally strong at. The game's familiar system, while rewarding, can feel punishing if the player hasn't diversified their team. For example, during the sudden ambush in the Golden Grove, if the player has only trained Oliver's starter familiar, Light, they'll struggle against enemies weak to other elements. This mirrors Oliver's own need to grow beyond his comfort zone. Similarly, his own moral conflict, refusing to kill even villains sometimes, backfires narratively. Player watches as Oliver's mercy towards Shadar's minions leads to recurring threats, creating tension between idealism and pragmatism. Oliver's naivete and over-idealism could have been his downfall, especially when dealing with morally ambiguous figures like Shadar. Yet, his pure-heartedness becomes his greatest weapon. Instead of succumbing to hatred or vengeance, he forgives Shadar, recognizing that the villain was himself a victim of the White Witch's manipulation. This moment is pivotal. Oliver's refusal to abandon his belief in redemption not only saves Shadar's soul, but also weakens the White Witch's control. Similarly, in his social interactions, his innocence disarms hostility. In Hamelin, where the people are brainwashed into complacency, Oliver's genuine concern cuts through their apathy, inspiring rebellion. His ability to inspire hope transforms his seeming weakness, being too trusting, into a tool for uniting people against oppression. Oliver's journey in Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, is a profound testament to the transformative power of resilience. In the face of unimaginable loss at the story's outset, he is a grieving child, shattered by his mother's death and paralyzed by helplessness, a weakness that mirrors the player's own frustration in early gameplay, where Oliver's low stats and clumsy magic mirror his emotional fragility. Yet through every battle fought, every heart mended, and every moment of despair overcome, Oliver's weaknesses become the crucible in which his strength is forged. His naivete matures into unshakable empathy, allowing him to see the pain in even his greatest enemies like Shadar, whose redemption becomes possible only because Oliver refuses to surrender his compassion to bitterness. His physical frailty is compensated by masterful magic and strategic ingenuity, forcing the player, like Oliver, to grow smarter and more adaptable, turning once impossible bosses into victories earned through perseverance. His grief, rather than hardening his heart, becomes the wellspring of his courage as he channels his love for Allie into saving others, realizing that true heroism isn't the absence of fear or sorrow, but the will to act despite them. By the game's climax, Oliver doesn't just defeat the White Witch, he transcends his own trauma, proving that the deepest wounds can become sources of strength when met with unwavering hope. His journey is a poignant reminder that maturity isn't the absence of weakness, but the wisdom to let struggle shape you into someone who can bear the weight of both worlds, not as a flawless savior, but as a boy who chose again and again to rise. Thank you, dear viewer, for listening. Please subscribe, share, and comment telling me what you want to see discussed in the future. Goodbye.